Oh, Dan makes the cutoff.
Just in time.
It was like one of those things where he just slides right in. I'm here, guys.
He did that on purpose, so he has a grand entrance.
Dramatic entry. Yes. Yeah. Well, happy Thursday. It is Thursday. Yes, Thursday. It is a cold one out in Wilmington, North Carolina right now. And I'm sure all y'all are a little bit colder than I am. So I won't talk about that because I'm sure it's just a little touchy subject out west.
It's positive. We're positive here. I'm looking at my computer. We have 1 degree. We have one. Yesterday we were backwards. Yesterday we were upside down, but today we have one. Just one, though.
Yeah, we've been that way as well. But we're in the positive. I don't know where. But it's going back down tonight.
You can't get ice fishing in if you don't get some real cold temps. That's all I'm saying.
Right. You have nothing to complain about because you want that.
Yeah. I need more ice.
Well, the good news is we got a positive topic to be talking about today, and super excited to have everybody here. I know we had Jonathan in the comments or the subject. That was my fault. I did not get the message out in time, so he will not be with us today, but he is here with spirit, sharing his positive vibes for hiring, recruiting, and talking about all those good things that us entrepreneurs do sometimes hate to discuss because it can be a hard subject for most business owners. I won't say most, but for some business owners out there. And, for most business owners listening right now, they're probably in the window washing, pressure washing industry. Most of them are also getting out of the Christmas light installation. So they're probably letting go some of their seasonal help. But, it's something we need to be thinking about 365 and not just when we need to be hiring. And that's the most important thing that I found over the years. And Shawn, I really did learn that from you guys and over at Blue Skies, always be hiring, always be recruiting. It says it right there in your title because it's best to be proactive rather than reactive. But before we really dive into this, let's just go kind of around the room, go round robin. Everybody introduce yourself, talk about your company, what you do, and we'll go from there as I share this amongst some other groups, please.
Oh, yeah.
Shawn?
Martha, Shawn. All right. Well, I am Shawn Day with Hire Lead Chill. I've been self-employed for about 30 years now and somewhere in there. And I used to own a cleaning company for about 20 years. I had a mortgage company for 10 years before that and hooked up with some dude named Platta. I don't know, 8 years ago, something like that, 7, 8 years ago, somewhere in there. And they took my company from me and gave me a little bit of money for it. And then I said, I'm going to hook up with you guys because you guys seem pretty cool. I like you guys. And we did some things together. And one of those things was we started to expand and buy some cleaning businesses. And we got to over 100 employees and decided we better start a full-time recruiting department just for our company. And we did that. So it took us a lot of collaboration. When I say I mean my team, and we put together a recruiting system for our own company at that time. And we got a bunch of our buddies that were coming out of the woodwork in different industries and home service industries saying, just chatting it up at conventions like we always do. How you guys doing this? How you doing that? And we said, we got this really cool recruiting system we put together and it's working out great. And we're very, very happy with it. And then we started, long story short, we started helping out some buddies, find some good employees. And we're now recruited. We've recruited for thousands of companies around the country now, mainly in the home service industry. So that's what we're all about. All I do is try to figure out how to increase the odds to find really good people to interview, hire, and keep. And that's it.
Awesome. Always be recruiting.
Got it.
Great intro. Martha, good day.
Good day. Hey, I'm Martha Woodward. I am co-founder of Quality Driven Software, and I have a website that is it's interchangeable, the payperformanceexpert.com or marthawoodward.com, same forwards. Anyway, I just talk to people about culture all day long. And my spin on attracting employees is really about how you make your business attractive and pull people in.
Love it. Awesome. And last but not least,
Dan Platta.
I'm the nerd here, I guess. Well, you guys are all pretty nerdy too.
Hey,
I don't want to let
where's
you
your beer?
Martha, it's
This is
it's
close
only
enough.
11 a.m. here, for God's
Well,
sakes.
I don't think that matters.
Well, it doesn't. You're right, it doesn't. But I'm not out fishing.
Especially, I was going to say, especially if you're fishing.
Yeah. I kind of have a weird lens into the culture thing because I'm a bookkeeping nerd, but I see hundreds of companies that are trying to scale, and over and over and over again, it's so apparent that the companies that are winning aren't winning because they're better at the thing, right?
Mhm.
They're winning because they're way better at finding good people and building that culture and retaining those people.
Yeah.
As entrepreneurs, we all have like a little bit of shiny object syndrome, and especially dudes. Dudes are the worst because if there's a business that needs equipment, we're going to buy all the shit and justify it, right? It might as well be, on a Black Friday sale, like we can't afford not to buy it type of thing. And we justify it as an investment. And the thing where we go wrong is all of those toys and all of those investments don't make any money unless we have an A player operating them. And you can't scale a business with a bunch of equipment. And so from a nerdy bookkeeping lens, I just see that over and over again, that the people that are winning are the ones that invest in their people, not necessarily. I mean, not that you don't invest in equipment, but the place it all starts is building the best team and culture possible.
Yeah, your number one asset. All right, that's everybody around the room right there. And whoever's watching, for our viewers, go ahead and just drop a comment, drop where you're listening from, talk about your company. Are you currently hiring? Are you having hiring issues in the past? And if you have any questions, feel free to ask. We're here to bring a ton of value to everybody that's watching and get you prepared for the season, because spring is right around the corner. And I can't believe how fast the Christmas light season went through us. And I'm already counting down days till September. Start hanging some lights again. All right, so there's got to be a magic recipe, like a secret formula that any business can go out there and just put on Indeed or put on Facebook or Monster, Craigslist, and just have the perfect formula and get the perfect candidate every single time, right? I mean, it's got to be out there because it's just simple. No, am I wrong? Am I the only one?
Simple.
No.
That sounds good. Sign me up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not easy. All right, so I mean, I'm going to talk about what we do, and then I'm going to hear from the experts, because you guys are the experts. But we have had a lot of success in Indeed and Facebook, and even better yet, especially in seasonal hiring, is reaching out to our clientele and saying, hey, we need your help. We're looking for this type of person to help hang lights for us seasonal, because they usually have kids coming home, or they know kids and know neighbors. That was a good thing. But the one thing that we shifted 2 years ago was our job ad. And it wasn't like you must. This is what we need. This is what we expect out of you. It was more like what you're going to get coming to work for Patriot Elimination, or what you can expect working for Cape Fear Pro Wash, and giving it more a fun, inviting, like, I'm actually going to want to read this because, squirt gun operator, or, magical Christmas light installer, elf, or something like that, fun titles to catch people's attention and start getting those job ads coming in. Because if we put all that technical stuff, must lift this, must have that, must have driver's license, must, you're weeding out a lot of people. And I found you're not going to find the perfect candidate on paper. But once you get in the door, like for me, I'm like a rock on paper. I can't articulate words in a resume to make myself sound good. But if you put me in front of somebody, I can speak and actually talk, and I can just deliver what I'm good at. So it wasn't about fine tuning to get the perfect recipe or the perfect client applicant coming in. We just wanted them coming in, if they could follow the process, our lead process, get them through the door, and then talk to them on a more human level to see what they're capable of. Because we could train people, and if they have a pulse and they're capable of doing things, and they have a personality, and we feel they'll fit in our culture, then we can work on the other things. But if we're too busy trying to like find that perfect candidate that can do all those things, then we're just tossing resumes left and right. And that was the biggest shift that we found 2 years ago. We'll just get in the door, and then we'll talk about it. Shawn,
Yeah.
you know, you send out all these job ads. Like, what is working for you, for your guys, and getting
Yeah.
job ads coming through?
I think I think you're exactly right. It's got to be an attractive job. And I think that all starts though with the concept, and I hate to use the word mindset because it's always overused, but there is a mindset shift that we made a number of years ago where we finally said, listen, give me a sentence with the word sales or marketing in it, and I'll take the word marketing out and replace it with the word recruiting, and it'll work every single time. It's identical in almost every way with sales. So to your point, job ad, right? Look at your website. Are you on your website saying if you're going to be a bitch and bitch about things, we don't want you? If you're going to be a cheapskate, please don't call us. Why would you do that on your website? Well, then why would you do that in your job ad? It's an advertising pitch as to finding out. And the number one goal behind a job ad, there's only one thing, and that is to create as much application flow as possible. Period. End of story. That's the only thing a job should do. So think about that and look through the other thing that we like to do is take off our owner hat and entrepreneur hat, put on the job candidate hat or glasses, and look through those. What is it that the job seeker's typing in? What is it that they want? What are they doing when they're looking for a job? They're sitting or on the phone. What are they putting in there? And those are some of the keywords and some of the descriptive words that you want to do and put in that job ad, because that's what they're going to connect to, what they're actually searching for. What are they doing? They're searching for certain things using keywords. If those keywords are in your ads, that's what's going to happen. That's where magic happens.
I think there was a shift in there too, where when all these digital job boards came out, there was no way to filter them. So I think part of the reason people got in this mindset of I'm going to use my job ad to filter people is because applicant tracking systems, ATSs, weren't developed that could help do the filtering for you. Now it's really clear and obvious, like, oh yeah, don't use your job ad to filter. You do that with an ATS or a different interviewing style or whatever the case was. But when you first started throwing out job ads on monster.com, it was just like, oh, we can't, I don't have time to go through all these, so I'm going to use my job ad to filter people. So it caused you to put all these negative constraints in there instead of, JC, like you said, positivity and trying to get those clicks. And so I think our recruiting world has come a long way too, in that we have way better mechanisms to filter people. And if you try to filter people at the job ad, you're probably filtering the wrong people in a lot of cases.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that, you still see some people that are very much placing an ad about what they want. And I always think, who's applying for those jobs, because it's got to be, when you write that job ad, it has got to be 100% about what's in it for you, the person reading the ad. And I loved to insert some of our personality. Every business has a personality, culture. And so I like to insert some of that in there. And in a way, I guess that was filtering, because, but it wasn't filtering in a negative way. It was, am I going to attract that person? So I'm all about pay for performance. So in the ad, I talk about our contests and our this and our that. And so who's going to apply for that other than people just going through the motion? Sure. But the people that are going to apply are the people who that appeals to them.
Yeah.
And it's a what's in it for me kind of thing. And they're like, ooh, yeah, like that.
So trying to stay on topic, but culture seems to be the trending word already. And it plays such a huge shift in the last, I'd say, maybe 5 years on what people were looking for. I feel people were looking more for that dollar amount previously. And now it's shifted more to like the culture and how much do you actually care about me as a person, not as just a number at your company.
Right.
And they want to see that within your job ad too, because they want to feel like they have a home. I always say you get a job that's temporary, you have a career that's, long term. So do they want a job that's probably just a seasonal thing, or just, their job hunting? You could tell that by their resume. Or do they want a career where they can lay some, groundwork down and grow with you personally and professionally? So talking about your culture and your job ad, I feel, is super important to be able to attract the right people. And like you said, you're not filtering out, but you're attracting the ones that are looking for that. And that's what we want. We want people who want to grow with us and not just sit here and say, like, when am I getting my quarter raise? Like, it's important, don't be wrong, but we've had people leave our company for more money and then come back a month or two later because the culture was horrible at the other place. And they realized that, that extra $2, $3, whatever it was, wasn't worth the time that they, just didn't feel valued there, and just the stress that wasn't worth that stress load.
Yeah.
I think the thing that happened over the last few years was the inflation. I mean, when your food starts to go up 50, 60, 70%, you better damn well believe it's money. Even when wages were going up, it was still, you had less spendable income in your wallet and purse because of inflation. So you had those people, and wages have gone up drastically over the last couple of years. But one of the things, I think there's this whole connection that you have to really think about, and that is the messaging in your job ad, and to Martha's point with culture. That you're going to speak about culture in the job ad, in the interview, when you hire them, in training, and for the rest of their life as an employee of yours. So the messaging, an example, very specific example I like to use is in the job ad. We can't wait to get your application, get you interviewed and hired, and let you know why you're going to wake up every morning and love to come to work here. We use that sentence over and over, why you're going to wake up every morning and love to work here. In the interview, when somebody schedules an interview, they get a message that says what to expect at the interview. And that is this: we're going to have a presentation and talk about why you're going to wake up every morning and love to come to work. And with that messaging, you got to put the pedal down on that. So what we add to that is an employee testimonial. And guess what that employee says? Let me tell you why you're going to wake up every morning and love to come to work like I do at ABC Cleaning Company. It's just boom, 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 boom. That person's going to go away if they don't like that messaging, which is your culture and what you're talking about. And that's okay. And that's what we do. It's that messaging, and you need to A/B test that a little bit if you need to. Change one thing at a time. I'm getting in the weeds with it, but that message has got to really get to them.
It's back to what you said earlier, Shawn. It's no different than your sales process, right?
That's exactly it.
If your sales process is like, here's the thing that we do. Oh, just kidding. Actually, we do this. Oh, and then your experience is going to be totally different than everything that you thought you signed up for. Like, if your communication is all over the place and inconsistent, and you do a shitty job of setting expectations, your close rate's going to suck. And I don't know if anybody needs to hear this, but when you're recruiting, you also have a close rate, right? Yeah. Like, there's the applicant to the candidate to the interview, or to the interview to the hire, and how long they stay. You got a whole bunch of conversions that need to happen in there. And your messaging is such a huge part of that to like get them from point A to point Z.
Yeah. And, I took some things that I learned from the corporate world and then instill the good things and put them, and put them in my little home service business. But, for my mindset was to create a whole process that people are saying, "Ooh, I want to work there." So, and it's just a whole system in starting with your job ad, and then the whole process, right? Shawn, you know this, that how quickly you respond, how you respond with energy, and I think it's really important that all along the way through the process, they can visualize themselves working at your company. So, it's gone are the days of saying, we have a bunch of rock stars and blah, 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 like the catchphrase words. And I shouldn't say gone are the days, but
they're not gone. Always be recruiting, Martha.
well, but I think it's more effective to say, painting the picture like Shawn was talking about, like, here's what your day looks like, and because you're wanting them to visualize themselves at that company. And I equate it to like when you give recognition to someone and you're saying, oh my gosh, you did a great job and, way to go and blah, blah, blah. That sounds pretty superficial. But then when you say, oh my gosh, Mary Smith said, and then you regurgitate some of that stuff and it's very specific and it just feels more authentic. And that's what I'm saying about like in the ad and then in the process, that you're giving them that inside look and feel of what it's like at your company.
We were talking about this too yesterday on Turf's Up Radio, and it was specific to right now. It's January right now. Okay.
Yeah.
We take it to the I don't know if it'd be an extreme, but I think you need to take this and we're building relationships. That's what you do in marketing, right? You're building relationships. I can't believe there would be somebody, unless you absolutely don't have the money to invest, go find it somehow. That's what we do as business owners and entrepreneurs. We fix things and we find ways to figure it out. I am begging anybody that watches this, if you're not recruiting and you have some sort of exterior cleaning company going on, whether you're repairing, installing, or cleaning something, or maintaining it, cutting it, pruning it, whatever it is, if you are not actively posting a job in several places right now, I am begging you to do it. There's a number of reasons why, but we took it to the extent. So what's the worst case scenario? You find somebody a couple weeks too early, then you've got to maybe buy them lunch and actually get to know them, and you're going to lunch anyway. Okay. What's the worst case scenario that happens from that? That maybe you find a couple rock stars that your competition's not going to hire had you not done that. These are simple, basic things. And most people watching this probably aren't doing it, don't want to do it, and never thought about doing it. That's the difference between the $500,000 revenue, $1 million revenue mindset, and the $5 and $10 million mindset. Do what you got to do. There was a post the other day I commented on, I can't remember where, and it's what do really, really successful people do that others don't? And it's simple. The successful people do what is the others don't want to do, even when they don't want to do it. And this is a perfect example of that. Start posting jobs now, man.
So you're telling me that I shouldn't be reactive and put my job ad up in May when we're really busy and I need to hire somebody because I just filled the schedule for the month? Because that just doesn't sound logical.
Yep. Why don't people do it? Why don't people do it?
There's like a weird panic that happens too, because everybody's like, oh, it's like late December, early January. I got plenty of time. I need to rest and relax. It's the off season. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh shit, it's March. Like, when did that happen? Like, how did it get here? And you're just, not that you wasted the whole time, but the number one thing that you should be doing is recruiting, because it is the best time of year, and we put it off because we don't need them yet.
So we did have a really good conversation about this yesterday on your show, Dan. And you briefly touched upon it, Shawn. But what do we do when we find that rock star? It's June, or it's January right now. We know we're not going to get busy till March, end of March, April. I mean, that's a long time to say, hey, can you sit around for 8 more weeks and wait for me? Like, talk about some of the things we talked about yesterday, just to kind of keep them active, keep them entertained, or
I mean, it's I think the best course of action is always the truth. Here's the truth. You're probably a smart guy, or you wouldn't be looking for a job 2 months early than what you're probably going to get hired. You know, you're working exterior something or another, but you're applying for that job, and you're looking and you're thinking, we want to hire A employees. So what does an A employee do? An A employee that knows that they're seasonal because they've worked outdoors for 3, 4, 5 years and they like it and they want to continue to do it. They're right now looking to secure that job. They don't want to wait till the last minute. We want to hire smart people that are putting thought to things and being intentional to secure a job. They're looking now. What does a C or D employee do? They wait until the last minute, then they get off the couch, they watched enough Netflix, and then now they're ready to look for a job. Which employee do you want to engage with? Why don't we engage with the ones that are looking right now? And so, you know, Joe, I know you probably are looking for a good job starting in the spring. We're not ready to hire till the spring. But I sure as hell would like to tell you about our company, get you in here, show you around a little bit, and tell you why you're going to wake up every morning and love to come to work here. I can't wait to meet you. Let's put you through the process. And this is, you know, think of the way to say these things too. It's Joe. Here we need to get you to apply so we can get you through. Do we call it a screening, a vetting? I want to make you jump through hoops, Joe, to find out. How about if we call it we want to make sure that it's a good fit for you. So we know that if you apply here, we've got a way that we can score this and look at it and say, I don't think it's going to be a good fit, but I bet you're going to be really good somewhere else. Those are all true statements. It's just, that's what it is. You got to the key is get as many applications as you can in January and February, screen it out, and then you're not ready to hire for maybe 3 or 4 weeks. As long as you know that person qualifies, I'd be buying them lunch. I'd be bringing them into the office. I'd be introducing him to my leaders and my management, and maybe even driving around a little bit.
There's a really nerdy bookkeeping thing happening here too, which of course I need to call out, and that's January and February is going to be the most cost-effective time to recruit. It's just a capacity and demand thing. There's way more people looking for jobs and there's way less people posting jobs. And so the cost per click, or whatever you want to call it, is going to be way lower and the quality is going to be higher. It just is. So just like your ROI, right? Your return on investment is going to be way better. And there's a few different ways that this is going to go if you recruit now and you don't need somebody. And they're all, to what you said earlier, Shawn, they're all fine. Like, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? You're going to have to go buy them lunch, right? And so they might be ready to come to work right now and not have a job, and you can't hire them for a couple months. That's fine. Interview them, vet them, build the relationship, and to Shawn's point, it's okay to say, hey, I know you need something. I'm maybe not going to hire you right now because it doesn't make sense. I don't have the cash flow or whatever the case is. And JC, I'm going to get to what you said yesterday in a second here, because I think that's step 2. But it's okay to say, hey, I'm really glad to meet you. Go. Let me know what you end up doing. If you go find something else, let me know. If you want to run it past me and get my opinion on it, I want to stay in touch with you. And in 2 months, when we're bringing people on board, I'm going to reach out to you then. And if the job that you found sucks, come on board. If the job that you found is great, stay there. But I'm going to keep bugging you every time I know I need to hire somebody, because at some point you're going to want to leave that junky job for my awesome job. And we'll take great care of you when you're ready to make that switch. Like, why wouldn't you stay engaged with them if they're awesome? Mm-hmm. That's alternative A. Alternative B is what JC mentioned last year, is he found the guy. He just hired him. Yeah, it's an investment to bring somebody on early, but that buys you runway to train them before shit hits the fan, and then they can help train the rest of the people up that you're going to be hiring. And so if they're that good, pay them for a couple months to bring them on board if you can afford it, right? And as a nerdy finance person, I get we don't all have the cash flow, especially this time of year, to be able to do that. But if you can make it work and you know that they're the right person, for the love of God, that is the best investment you can make in your business with the highest ROI. It's not marketing. It's not that piece of equipment. It's not that vehicle. Like, that human is going to make you the most amount of money of any other investment you could make. And so it's okay to hire them a little earlier than you need them. So that's alternative B. Alternative C would be, if they're an A player, they probably have a job. And they're probably like, hey, I'm looking around because I want to see what the next thing is. To Sean's point, I think I'm going to be looking for something else this spring. If they already have a job, which is generally like people that we want to hire are already employed somewhere, right? That's normal. We're usually not trying to hire people that don't have a job right now. We're trying to hire people that do have a job, and it's a good thing if they have a job. And so if they're interviewing with you and you're saying, hey, I can bring you on in March. Oh, you have a job right now? Are you okay hanging out there for a few more weeks? And then we'll plan this thing for March. And if you have the right job and they have something that can pay the bills in the meantime, that's totally fine. All three of those situations, those are the alternatives. One of those three things is going to happen, and they're all totally fine. And again, your cost per click, your ROI is at its best. So now's the time.
Yeah, Dan. So that wasn't me. That was somebody else that we talked about that had reached out to me about hiring that person. He hired him 2 months earlier.
But it was your story.
Yeah, yeah. But he was afraid to because it was 2 months prior to him being busy. But he knew what a rock star stud this guy was because of the company he was working with prior to that. But if he didn't hire him at that point, like he knew that he was going to lose the opportunity. Could he have got him back? Maybe. But we talked about different ways to capitalize on his employment. One, he could start the training platform, getting the training going for the next hire. He was really good at sales already. So he's hiring for an operations manager, but he also had experience in sales. So he sent him out there doing sales and getting some leads coming in for the season. He's still with that company. And like when he talks about him, he's just like, he tells me how much he's capitalized on having him on there by bringing him on early, first waiting till when they're going to get busy. Then he'd have to devote the time during the busy season and train him, and things would have fell short. So if you can't afford it, bring him on early. If you can't, we get it. But like you said, open that communication with them. They want that. They want to be, treated like a human. So if you're being real and honest with them, saying, hey, look, I really want you, but I can't take you for another 6 weeks, but we need you. Once we're ready, we want you on our team. We want you to be a part of our family. We want to grow with you, and we want you to grow with us. That's going to be like, all right, I could suck it out for another 4 weeks and then put my 2 weeks in, and then I'll be ready for you that time.
You got to have something to compare it to. What's the flip side? The flip side is you're stressing out, you're leaving money on the table, and your culture is going to get ruined because all the stress and then leaving money on the table and all the other nonsense. And you're going to go through another year of not sleeping good at night, worried about employees and rushing around and spending so much more to find one too.
Yeah. And, if you're out there and maybe you're getting leads, but you're not getting quality leads, meaning quality applicants, then I would look at how you're positioning yourself to be different. And like, what are you using to lure people in? Because money alone is probably not going to get you who you want. You've got to have a competitive wage. There's no doubt about that, or they're not even going to look at you. But you got to have more than that, honestly. And for me, I found that, and this is what you do: you study your demographic, the people that you have now, or that you've had in the past, that are those rock star employees, and what was valuable to them. And you even ask them, so what made you apply? And what's your favorite benefit or perk of working here? Like, and then those are the things that you go and put in your ad and all your verbiage. And then it doesn't stop with the ad. Once they've applied and you have that funnel, like it is exactly like marketing, right? And so you're selling them on all of the pieces of your culture. And, you're shifting the mindset of, oh my gosh, I need people to, wouldn't you be lucky to work here? That's not your verbiage, of course, but they're sitting in their head, thinking, oh my gosh, I want to work there. And that's a powerful shift.
Mhm.
Because then you can get those people that possibly might work that other job because they really want to work there.
I want to hit on one thing Shawn mentioned, but I want to dive deeper into it, and then I'll probably kick it back to you, Martha, because I think you'll see a lot of this and probably have some stories about it. But if the thing that happens if we wait, right, to Shawn talking about alternatives, if we don't recruit now and start building those relationships now, is a term that I like to call dumpster hiring. And we've all freaking done it, right? Because we wait and then we need someone.
Yeah.
And when you need someone, you don't have the time to build the relationship. You don't have the time to actually vet them out and see if they are the person that you want. You're like, I need somebody with a pulse. They just need to be able to lift this thing or do that thing. And so, and you're going to rush through that process. Now, I'm not saying you're not going to find a good person or two doing that, but we've also all hired really shitty people doing that. I'm the worst because I only see the best in everybody. Everybody, to me, like when I interview them, I'm freaking awful at it because everybody, I just think they're just going to be like the best employee in the world. And I have definitely, I mean, like hilariously, the best interviews, the people that interviewed the best, and I was just like, yes, this person's going to be amazing. I mean, just like some god awful employees, and some of the people that interviewed the worst. And I did dumpster hire them.
Absolutely.
I should have never hired them. They ended up actually being some of my best employees, which just tells me how terrible I am at interviewing and being that like judge of character. But it's kind of like JC said earlier, right? Like some people have that skill set. Do you really want to judge them based on their resume? Do you want to judge them based on their interview? Right? Some people suck at interviewing. Some people are really good at interviewing. It's not a great way to assess somebody's skill set. And Shawn and I have other ways that we like to do that. But man, I've hired some just shitty people. And when you dumpster hire, like, yeah, maybe you get a human for a little while, but holy crap, your culture is impossible to manage. Mm. It's freaking impossible to manage. And then you don't like your business, right? If your culture sucks, your life kind of sucks. And we've all been there. Like, I can't possibly be the only one that sucked at hiring people, hired some bad. Thank God I had Shawn. Like, I had a little bit of sanity. But man, we had some teams that I built that maybe didn't make my life the easiest.
So, one thing I hear just repeatedly throughout the industry, it doesn't matter which industry, is over and over and over, nobody wants to work anymore.
Yeah.
What do you say to that? Because for me, that's a mindset issue because we keep recruiting rock stars every year, especially in our seasonal business. We get enough people to get through and still deliver a quality product to all our customers. And they know they're seasonal and they're out there performing like they're full-time employees and they love their job and they love what they do. So I've seen guys in the industry for 10, 12 years that refuse to hire people because nobody wants to work or they're afraid that they're going to find all the business secrets and then go start their own business.
It's exactly that. It's a mindset. Almost without exception. I talk to business owners on a daily basis and we talk recruiting. And I can tell you with certainty that almost without exception, those that say exactly what you said, JC, and bitch and complain about nobody wants to work anymore, never execute on their hiring needs miraculously. It's crazy. It's crazy. Those that say, hey, dude, I know the labor market's tight, but what are the solutions? Win. There's just, it's that simple. I've got a daughter that's 16 years old that's got $11,000 in the bank right now working at a pizza place for a year and a half. Okay. She's got some pretty good freaking work ethic.
Yeah. So Amy, she must have learned from Amy.
She certainly did. And I'm not on the savings account either. So, so yeah, that's it. I mean, that's the bottom line. And I go back to the two things I've said. One is successful people do the things that unsuccessful people refuse to do. And they do it even when they hate to do it and don't want to do it. That's the difference between successful people and not successful people in a nutshell. And the other thing is, JC, those people for 10 years have been thinking like $500,000, $1 million company, tops. And I bet none of them are at $5 million with that mindset. Not one of them. how can you be with that mindset?
Mhm.
That's the difference. I remember talking to Kenneth Harlow, pressure washing guy. He's a really good guy, and he owns a really good business in South Carolina, Myrtle Beach area. And him and I were talking, and Tommy Mello, just $200 million guy. He's more than that now. And he remembers hearing Tommy say, to the question of how are you able to find so many employees around the country? Because I never stop hiring, and I just keep hiring and hiring and hiring. And when they suck, I get rid of them and hire. But you can't get rid of them if you're not always hiring. And he said, I did that from the beginning. But it took me a while to figure it out, but I did it at the beginning. Not now. I have to do it now because I'm so big. But I did that at the beginning. You have to overhire and get rid of the 20% that are bad. That was Jack Welch with GE. That's what his philosophy was. That's a $250 million mindset. That's not a $500,000 mindset.
Yeah. It's, Dan, when you were talking about, I was just like you as far as, because we're talkers, and we get somebody in there that has a personality, and you're like, at the end of it, if they were enjoyable, you're like,
they're going to be great.
Yeah. And like you said, sometimes you get people who are pretty good actors, and they know exactly, they're manipulators. They know exactly how to manipulate that interview to where at the end you're like, oh my gosh, I loved them. And then they get into your company, and man, I can think back. I mean, I had one that had a bogus workers' comp claim, like right off the bat. And, you learn all those lessons. And even towards the end, when I was very good at creating the culture that I wanted, I still was not fail-proof by any means at who I chose. And yeah, sure, we added interview questions and we did all the things. And now there are things like, who hire, where you can do not a personality, but anyway, there's
the predictive index.
Yeah. And so anyway, I ended up, what I did is I would overhire, and our training process was built to, one, graduate competent employees, but right there, secondly, it was to screen out the wrong people that I hired. And there were things in training that were purposely almost like plants, as in planted situations, not house plants.
But sometimes those two.
Yeah. And but there were scenarios that were built into our training that would flesh a little of that out, because my philosophy was I couldn't 100% hire the right people, but I could pretty much 99% screen them out by the end of our training.
Yep.
And so therefore, that was the next best scenario. And then you knew that you had the right fit.
Yep.
So it's just a process and figuring out the game.
Yep.
You know?
So Tim Hennessy commented in here. He's watching on YouTube, but he said he fired his entire crew this year, and that happens to us because we hire somebody that we think is good, and it's like we hope that our good employees will raise up our bad employees, but what happens is the cancerous employee spreads all the bullshit and the drama and brings everybody else down with them to the point where you have to fire them. And so, Martha, to your point, like, you're going to hire some shitty people. It's inevitable. No matter what screening thing you use, somebody's going to beat your tactics and your system. And so Shawn and I, back a couple of years ago, we were like, you got to, everybody said hire slow, fire fast, but you can't hire slow. It's too competitive. So it was like this cadence of like, hire really fast, fire effing faster, right? Like you just gotta like to what you mentioned about Tommy's business too, Shawn. It's just like you got to get them out fast, because if you leave them in, they're gonna infect your entire crew, and you're literally gonna have to fire everybody. And I want to go back to your original question here, quick, JC, which is like the mindset thing, and nobody wants to work anymore. We do get beat over the head with this a lot. I'm not saying we as in like Shawn and I that do recruiting for people, and I'm Shawn more than me. I'm just nerdy bookkeeper. But as business owners, we get hit over the head by a lot of people that don't want to work hard. Like it's a thing, right? Mm-hmm. But it's not everybody.
Right.
And we know that, right? But it's just so much easier to say that than it is to look in the mirror and realize we're the ones that can't figure it out, right? Mm-hmm. Because clearly there's plenty of people figuring it out that are growing and running awesome businesses, and we're just frustrated. And I totally get that. It sucks when you know you need people and you can't grow without them. It's super frustrating. And so we've all been there, right? Where it's just like, I just can't quite look in the mirror yet and figure this thing out. But one of the pieces of data that I see ever since Shawn started building the recruiting businesses, it's getting more and more digital, right? And it's getting faster. And so there's a natural consequence to that many folks in our industries haven't adjusted to yet, which is the no-shows. And they're super frustrating, but they're going to keep happening and they're going to get worse. And here's why. When people are applying to our jobs, they are also applying to 40 other jobs in 3 seconds. Mm-hmm. Yep. And they just are. And that's just going to keep happening. And that's exactly why when you reach out to them, if you're lucky enough that they even answer your text or your call, they're like, who is this? What job? I don't even remember applying for this job, right? And it goes back to having a memorable job ad, right? Because we got to stand out. But they are applying to a bunch of jobs in 2 seconds, and they didn't even read your whole job ad. They maybe just read the title, right? And that doesn't mean they're a piece of shit. That doesn't mean they're a bad person. It means you have to engage them very quickly, and it is marketing. You've got to capture their attention. And this is going to keep happening the whole way through this entire like daisy chain process, which is you're going to post a job ad. They're going to click on 40 job ads in 2 seconds. You're going to invite them to the interview. Well, if your job ad wasn't memorable, when you go to invite them to the interview, like maybe they engage, maybe they don't, but you're going to have another round of no-shows here where it's like, if you're not fast enough, or if you don't have some sex appeal right here, they're not going to show up to your interview. Right? They're only going to show up to the interviews that they really want to go to. And then you're going to interview them and you're going to make them an offer, and they might even accept the offer, but they're going to accept like 5 offers. Mm-hmm. Like you got to know that they're going to accept a whole bunch of different offers. They're only going to show up to one of those jobs, or maybe none of them, but they're conditioned to not communicate with you and this is just like happening, right? We all know it's happening. It's frustrating. But they are conditioned to not tell you what they're doing or what they're thinking, because there's no ramifications if they don't. They're just going to take the one that they like the best. So it's your job to create the best job ad, to create the best follow-up, to create the best interview. And Shawn and I have talked about our group interview process a whole lot, where they're opting in instead of us trying to interview them and pick them. We do a sales approach and let them pick us. And then they pretty much always show up because they're the ones that picked us, right? We didn't pick them.
That's what I was going to say. There's one way to guarantee no shows, and it's called group interviewing. Mm-hmm. Because if you might have 8 people or 10 people that say they're showing up, and if you get 3, you'll take that every day of the week. But if you're doing one-on-one, you're going to have 8 no-shows, and then you're going to get really frustrated. If you want to end your no-shows, do group interviews.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I would suggest too that, we talked about the follow-up. You were doing all the things to make your workplace the desirable one. But one of the things that I did is in our office, when they'd come to interview, I purposely planted lots of things on the wall that was kind of a sales tactic for the people interviewing. So when you're giving them that office tour, be very mindful of all the things that you have on the wall, because we had our dream board. We had I had these posters made that cost me maybe $15. They're just foam board posters. And it was all about how can I earn extra money? And then, you're listing all the opportunities. How can I earn extra paid days off? And your career ladder, having your career ladder up there and all those things. And so when you're walking them through, you don't even point those things out, but they're taking it all in. And it's that whole, I want to work here, and you can be really, you can be as strategic and manipulative about it, but it's in a good way.
Right.
So.
Yeah, it shows them opportunity, shows them growth, and shows them that you care. Again, it's we care about you personally and professionally. Not just what you're doing here, but what you can be doing at home with your family, your off time. Are you trying to buy a car, go and travel, things like that? It's all part of that culture, and you want that positive culture. You're gonna have culture one way or another. It's gonna be good or bad.
Yeah.
So might as well have it good. And Todd brought up something here too. He had to let somebody go back in June, and I'm guilty of it too. You'll have what you thought was a Rockstar employee, then things change, whatever. It could be life circumstances, anything. And then they just get sour and then just become an okay employee. And those are some of the worst employees, but you're like pigeonhole. You're like, I can't get rid of them because I need them.
Yeah, they're impossible to fire because you just remember how good they were.
Yeah. And it's like, you want to just try and just keep reeling back in, but they just don't want it anymore. And it's the hardest thing to do sometimes, because especially when you're invested in them and they've been there for a couple of years, but I forget who it was, but so it's like, it's time to promote them off to another company. And, we love you, mean it, as Pat would say, but it's time for you to go.
There was something that I used to do that I kind of forgot about when you were talking about, you've got this person that you really want to hire and you don't have a spot for them. Well, one of the things that I did in later years is, now we weren't a seasonal business, so it was, it is different, but we would hire them. And I always had, no matter what, I had a bunch of A players, but you always had some B and C's, And so when you bring in a new person and they go through training and so forth, when they're killing it and showing up, quality, all the things recurring. So I may start shifting some jobs from that C player over to this person. And, we'd have those conversations with the C player, like, you're calling off too much. And, Mrs. Jones is having to be rescheduled. She doesn't want to get rescheduled. So I'm moving Mrs. Jones to so-and-so. And so you've got options. And that C player is either going to rise to the occasion or they will drop out because they're getting phased out.
I always look at it like I actually say this in a demo, Martha, and it's exactly what you've said, but I term it a little bit differently and set it up a little bit differently. And it's you got 5 starters on a basketball court. Mm-hmm. They look over at the bench, and there's not one person on the bench. How hard are they going to work after practice? Are they going to stick around and do extra free throws? Are they going to go to camps in the summer and all that? Why would they? Now, if they look over at the bench and there's 3 or 4 people ready to take their first position on the team, guess how hard they're going to work. Yep. And what happens, I think, a lot of times, to your point, is if they're a C or a B, the C's going to quit because they know that they're not that good. They just know it. And they know that they don't want to be there anymore. And sometimes those B players turn into A players because they're like, okay, I got to get my shit together now. And it's okay. I've always said that we've decided, all of us probably listening to this and on here, we've chosen to be in high turnover industries. Mm-hmm. All of these industries were high turnover 30 years ago. They're high turnover today. I'll bet my daughter's savings account that we're going to be high turnover in 30 years from today. Here's the cool thing. It does not mean you have to be short-staffed.
Right.
That's a whole different thing. And that's why we call it the hopper strategy. We had a customer that had like 4 or 5 technicians. 2 went down. They're calling like crazy. The account manager here at Higher Lead Chill, and what do we do? And we're like, well, your wife's still recruiting, right? And interviewing. We're looking at the data, and he's like, I don't know. I haven't even called her yet. I'm just freaking out. And she's like, yeah, I just interviewed like 3 people. They weren't boosting and sponsoring. They were just building that hopper. They were putting players on the bench. They replaced 2 technicians, which was about 40% of their workforce. 40% of their workforce in about 72 hours because they just were doing what? Always be recruiting.
Yeah.
We talked about it, like do this in January, right? And it's okay if you're not going to hire them right away. And we didn't draw that line to what you just said, Shawn, but like if it's June, keep doing it. Like don't stop marketing, don't stop recruiting. You don't know when an employee's going to turn sour. You don't know when they're going to have a change of life circumstances. You don't know when they're going to turn sour and drag their buddy with them. And you're going to have 2 people to replace immediately. And so you can keep doing this interviewing and recruiting strategy all year long. And damn it, you should, which is interview people before you need them. Build relationships before you need them so that when 2 people do quit, you have a bench of 10 people ready to go. And yeah, you're going to call a bunch of them and they're going to have a job already. And so, but half the time they're going to want your job anyway, because the job they have sucks because that person's not building a good culture like you are.
So go ahead, Martha.
Oh, I was just going to say real quick, a tip that I feel like works pretty well is you're collecting all of those leads and you've got that applicant pool of leads. You need to nurture them just like you would nurture your client leads. And one of the things that I did, I went through periods where I was more on my game than others. Like when I started QDS, I will fully admit that I let a few things slide, and this is one of them, but it was very effective, is a monthly newsletter that you're sending to your applicant leads.
Yep.
And
I love it.
It was, I would write it and I would send it to my current employees, but I was writing it just as much for the past people who had applied. And so in there, again, I'm writing it for my current people, but you're writing, hey, we've got this summer party coming up, and you're talking about it all. And then you're like, we've got this new piece of equipment. And then, so just like you do a client nurture newsletter, you're letting them get a glimpse on the inside of your company. And so yeah, sure, you're going to get people that unsubscribe, like, I don't want to get their stuff. But if you make it appealing enough, it's just like any other piece of marketing. If they're interested, and that's the only people you care about, they're going to keep getting that. And then, of course, at the bottom of every newsletter, you're saying, we're always looking for the best people, blah, blah, blah. And you got that link where those people could apply or refer. So
the cool thing about that, Martha, too, is not only are you just keeping touch with them and getting that touch with that prospective employee, but maybe when you are looking for help, you reach out to them. They don't need a job, but their friend does. And they say, hey, you got to go try this company. Like, we've been getting these newsletters. The culture seems amazing. This would be a good fit for you, because they're probably not going to refer a C player to a company that they want to work for. So it's also another good recruiting tool for that as well, because then they become your recruiters.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So we got a couple minutes left. Just real quick on the technical side, Shawn, since you guys are doing all these job ads, if I post a job ad here in Wilmington, North Carolina, is it going to be as effective as somebody is posting in, let's say, California?
One of the first things we do and recommend is we research the labor market. And I'll give you a perfect example. When Dan and I were with Blue Skies, we had a window cleaning company in Minneapolis, Minnesota. We had a window cleaning company in Cincinnati, Ohio. The keyword general labor worked really well in Minneapolis, Minnesota. So we did that. Had we said, okay, well, that's working great there, let's use that in Cincinnati, we'd lose probably 30% of our application flow because we learned window cleaner or window cleaning worked better in Cincinnati. Same company, same benefits, same pay, same physician. The only thing different was labor market. The word maids in the residential home cleaning space. Maids on a mission, Buckets and Bows maid service. Those are Texas words. Maids, maids, maids. It's an awful lot like he smacked me in the face with a sneaker. I wouldn't know what the hell you hit me with. I buy tennis shoes. All right. I don't know what a soda looks like. I buy pop. But other parts of the country do soda and they do sneakers. It depends. Labor market, researching the labor market for keywords on job boards like Indeed and ZipRecruiter. They've got that data. They'll tell you what the keywords are on that particular platform.
And then great response, because it's something I would never thought about. So know your market, know the keywords, do the split test, put up 2 job ads and see which one's getting the better response. As far as investing in, let's say Indeed and paying for the click and all that versus doing the free, is it worth it? How much should they be investing per? What's the guideline for that?
It depends on the job title. So I guess stick with technicians mainly. It depends on your urgency. Right now, it wouldn't hurt my feelings if somebody said, let's post a free ad on Indeed and see how it works for a week or 2. But I wouldn't wait too long. I'm somebody that says you need to put a strategy together based on the competition, how competitive your labor market is, and go from there. If you don't have a very competitive labor market, you might be okay doing some free stuff. I think you need to have a big net. I think you need to be in as many places as possible. I think it's just like marketing. And then you start to dial it in. And the key to it is, and we do this big time, metrics. Track where it's coming from. Track not only where it's coming from, but you want to track how long that employee's been with you. So we rolled out a new dashboard and a new set of metrics that we're using right now for our clients. So Indeed, let's say that you invest $200 on Indeed and you got 2 hires, and you did double that on ZipRecruiter and only got 1 hire. Well, obviously you'd go to Indeed. Maybe not. Maybe those people on Indeed only lasted 60 days, but the one you got on ZipRecruiters lasted a year. You tell me what's more. I'd pay a little bit more for that one, quite a bit more for that 1 year or 2-year employee compared to the ones that lasted and only cost me $200 or whatever it is. So it's a matter of cast the net, see what's happening, and record that and track that. And you'll soon be able to identify based on cost per hire, that's the key, and how long did they last. Over time, you're going to drastically reduce your increase your return on investment.
Yeah, you said one good thing, track it too. Get an Excel spreadsheet or some type of sheet and put that applicant flow in there. Put down every single name that's applied. Put down the process. Did you call them? Did they show up for an interview? Did they not show up for the interview? Because as the years go on, they're going to start applying for your job again. And I'll never forget this one story. This guy was supposed to show up for an interview at 7 o'clock in the morning. I had like 4 of my team there. I'm like, all right, guys, we got a new salesman coming in today. He's going to do his interview. He sounded like a rock star on the phone. 7 o'clock, he's going to be here. And we're all sitting around having a meeting at 7:15. He doesn't show up. And I call him. I'm like, hey, I think I don't know. Hey, Mom, where you at? Like, who's it? Hey, DC's for the interview at 7 o'clock. Oh, I'm making breakfast. I'll be up there in a minute. Anyway, he comes up 20 minutes later, drunk, absolutely drunk at 7:30 in the morning. And then he's applied for our company every single year, like every 6 months he's applying. So if you got a lot of applications coming through, it's good to track it because you could also go back too. And now you have the list of the people who applied that you talked to were a good fit or a bad fit. And just because they applied last year doesn't mean you can't call them this year. You never know. You never know if their job situation changed. So it's a good idea to track that in some type of spreadsheet. So you don't have to go through that. Like, I remember that name, but I don't know. Let's just call him in here. And then it's like the same person again. You're like, shoot, he's drunk again.
He's drunk again.
And you're going to get, oh, go ahead, Martha.
Oh, I was just going to say, and if you know, because as you guys are talking, I'm thinking there's a ton of busy business owners that either because they're too busy and or they just don't want to do it. Just like bookkeeping, just like anything else, if you know you are not going to do a good job at recruiting, you need to give it over to somebody else that's going to do all of that for you, because it's like, if you're not going to market, this is marketing, and when you're marketing to clients, they might bring in my world, maybe 3,000 a year. Whereas when you're marketing to an employee, 55 to 60,000 in my world a year. But yet you're spending all your time and effort over there. So hire somebody if you're not doing it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. JC, you were asking about, like, should you spend money on it? It's like, you'd be crazy not to, right? And Martha said in maid service, yeah, it's 50 to like 75,000 for a home cleaner. If you're talking like window cleaning, pressure washing, landscaping, landscape lighting, you can get up. Your technicians can be doing close to 500,000, and you're sitting here like, I don't know if I'd want to spend 100,000 in job ad boosting to go, or spend $1,000 in job ad boosting to go find somebody that can generate hundreds of thousands of dollars for me. It's like, it's crazy how much we're willing to spend on marketing to go get, a $500 client or a couple $1,000 client. And we're scrutinizing over spending a few $100 on job ads to go find something that literally gets us hundreds of thousands of dollars, and makes our life a lot easier, because we've all been there when we have shitty employees, and that sucks. Mm-hmm. And we've all been there when we've had a good employee, and we're like, man, what I wouldn't pay to find another one of those, and then we don't pay it so often. So it's like, yeah, like, it is the best investment you can make, both in growing your company, but also in your freaking sanity. Right? Like, take care of yourself. Go get good employees. It's like the best mental health thing you can do for yourself.
And the flip side of that, you can be incredible at recruiting and getting like A players every time. But if you don't have any systems in place, if you're not great at communicating and you have bad culture, they're not going to stay. Mm-hmm. And that's where that cycle comes from is, nobody wants to work anymore. Well, maybe nobody wants to work for you. Because you don't have everything right. And if that's the consistent like play, like hire, fire, hire, quit, whatever it is, like have somebody come to your business and just kind of look at everything for you with an open and honest mind, be humble, accept criticism, and fix it. Because people do want to work. People do want to grow with your company. Not everybody's out to steal your company or start their own business. So it's like there's two parts to that. Yes, you got to recruit rock stars, but then you also have to be that rock star boss that you promised them and deliver on the things that you told them you're going to do.
I had Martha on my show last week, Martha, or 2 weeks ago.
I think it was last week.
Yeah, we talked a lot about culture. So before you, because you're the genius with culture for sure. The two things that we talked about were, one, I think sometimes when I talk to business owners, a lot of times their culture is geared for some reason towards their clients and what they're going to do with their clients and stuff. Culture, I believe, should be all about your employees. And even when you talk about your core values and your culture and that sort of thing, what's in it for them? And why do we need to behave these certain ways? And it makes a better work environment and and all that, whatever your culture is. That was the one thing that we talked about a little bit. And then the other thing is with culture, I think it's the hardest thing to keep a consistent culture. And once you get away from it, it is so hard to reel it back in, man. It is just so hard. If there was anything that you need to be on top of all the time, and I think if you had somebody come from the outside, and it's always the owner, by the way, don't look at your employees with this. It's always you, period, end of story. So JC's right. With all that said, it's a matter of look in the mirror and figure it out. But if you don't have that right, and I mean, somebody should be able to come in and ask every one of your employees, what's your core values and culture? And every single one of them, to the word, should say exactly what your culture is. and what your core values are. I think that's how important it is.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Same mission.
All right. Well, real quick before we go, do you guys want to put any plugs for where they can find you and learn more about what you guys do?
That outsource thing about recruiting, you can come right to me. HireLeadChill.com. HireLeadChill.com. Click on demo. I'll show you our system and how we hire a bunch of people for all kinds of companies in about 33 different states around the country. And you can take what I show you and try it internally, and I have no problem with that. And I'll help you with that. If you want to pay us a few $100 to do it for you, we'll do that too.
Awesome.
And you can reach me at martha@qualitydrivensoftware.com or via Facebook and just message me. Be happy to help. You can say, I'm having this problem with something culture related. And if it's finance related, I'm sending you to Dan or Megan.
Yeah, Dan Platta from Best Damn Bookkeeping. And I can't hire people for you, but I can do your books for you and probably tell you need to spend more on recruiting, and that'll help your business a whole lot.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate the three of you for joining us today. Hopefully everybody got a ton of value out there. Again, don't stop recruiting. If you don't have a job ad that's live right now, get it out there. You know, like Shawn said, there's plenty of free opportunities or free services out there. Indeed, Facebook. Just get it out there and just always be recruiting. If the phone's ringing, they want a job, set up the interview, get them in there, because you never know what's going to be knocking at that door. So I appreciate y'all. Happy Thursday, and we'll talk soon.
Bye.